Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Ramley John, and I have here Courtney. Courtney, how are you doing?
I'm good, Remy. How are you?
Pretty good. To all the people who are joining us, welcome. We are so excited for you to join us. While you're joining in, just let us know where you're joining us from. Courtney, I forgot where you're from.
No,
It's
it's all good.
Nashville,
We're in
Tennessee.
Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix, not even close.
The
Just type
background
it
gives
out.
it away a little bit.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, but why
the
is it the flowers?
the cacti, the cacti.
Oh, cacti. Oh, okay. I would have guessed Texas. Mess.
No,
I see some people.
I was there before. I was in Phoenix, so you were close.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I see some people from Toronto. I'm from Toronto, from Canada. So I'm seeing some people from Austin, some from India, from Germany. That's people from Malaysia. Wow, that must be like super late or early there, depending on what you see. San Diego, Virginia, England, Montana. Oh wow, Argentina. Wow,
It's a
some
good
really
mix.
yeah for sure. I'm super excited. There's still people, some people coming in. San Francisco. Hey Greg, how's it going? Oh, Candice from Fellow. Yeah, I chatted with Manuela from head of marketing there a few weeks ago. So Candice, nice to meet you as well. Before we get started, thank you so much for just typing where you're from here. But let's kick off with something fun. I just love to know for people who are here, which product has the best user onboarding experience? I'd love to just hear it in the chat. Which product you've seen has a great onboarding experience? Courtney, maybe we can start off with you. What do you think is a product that has a great onboarding experience? And for everybody else, type it in the chat.
Yeah, excited to see what everyone says. But I have to highlight a few of our customers for their onboarding experience. Vidyard and Linktree both have
Mm,
amazing user onboarding experiences. They're to the point, which is what I like about them. They're give you everything that you might need just off the bat without going too deep. I love to just kind of
great.
get what you need for the basics to start and then go on from there. Maybe you have additional flows or whatever it might be, but they have some really, really great onboarding experiences. What about you, Romney? Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, Vidyard is great. They're a Canadian company. Gotta gotta plug that in. Also, Linktree is good. I would say I'm seeing some people say Airtable and Miro. I think Miro has a cool experience. Just the way it makes it fun and it guides you through the whole experience. I'm seeing some people say Notion. It's been a while since I signed up. I'm not sure if you recall, Courtney, when we signed up for Notion. It's quite a while
Yeah.
back. Yeah. Duolingo, of course. I was trying to learn Spanish for the longest time in through Duolingo, and it asked like, "How well do you know Spanish?" So it kind of skipped you ahead. That's pretty cool. Superhuman, Salesforce, Jennifer. That's interesting. I haven't signed up for Salesforce for a while from scratch. Yeah, some really good experiences here. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for everybody for sharing. Our goal here today is to help you like design this start thinking about how to turn more of your users into lifelong customers through your user onboarding. I see different people here with different roles, people with product from the PM, uh, some from marketing, some from CS, other people from even sales who have joined, and super excited to just dig into this. And by the way, just heads up, as soon as you complete the stuff here, there is a certificate and badge that you can earn that you can share on LinkedIn. Just like, hey, I'm user onboarding certified through AppQs. It can really just celebrate that with you as well. Just a little bit about us. Maybe Courtney, let's start off with you. Maybe just like a quick introduction about yourself, and then
Yeah.
I'll introduce myself and jump in.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, if we don't work together, I'm an enterprise customer success manager here at AppQ. So, I help our enterprise clients with building out experiences, strategy, all the goodness once you sign up with AppQ. So, super fun to make some deep connections with some of our clients. I really enjoy learning some new and different things that they're doing with our product that I never would have thought of, but yeah, I love being able to connect with each and every one of you. And thanks for having me here today, Romley.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. I know you've helped many of our customers with user onboarding experiences. For me, I'm the content programming director here at AppQs. I work on many things, including the Product Adoption Academy and a lot of the product led growth collective stuff. I wrote a book called Product Led Onboarding that was all about onboarding before I joined AppQ. So onboarding is my jam, so to speak. So I'm excited to dig into this. And like I said in the chat here, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, as well as drop it in the questions, and we will get to it at the end. We'll have lots of time for us to respond to, or even like dig into one of your user onboarding experience. So let's talk about onboarding and really the importance of it. A lot of you are here because you already know the impact of onboarding. The challenge often is that it sometimes we have to kind of get the buy-in of leadership as to why it's so important. I think one of the big key pieces of why you're here, why you're working on it, and how you can convince your leadership, or you can convince your whole team if you're already one of the leaders, if you're a C-suite leader, is that the biggest impact to onboarding specifically for SaaS and B2B is the retention piece. Now we know that through the stat from Mixpanel, a lot of retention for SaaS companies, even elite ones, are very low. I think I saw some stat that 70 to 80% of people who sign up for your product never come back after the first day. I think that's a huge challenge. And there's either more stats that if you can keep somebody to stick around for that first few days, they're more likely to stick around for years to come. I think that's a key important indicator that working on that first impression has huge snowball effect throughout their user journey and their life cycle. There's also some stat from Profitwell where they found actually some kind of correlation that if users who experience great onboarding, they're 2 to 3 times more likely to stick around. And they studied over, I'd say, 500 or so companies across B2C, consumer app, as well as B2B, and compared throughout from the 3 weeks, 6 weeks, and 9 weeks, those great onboarding experiences does lead to higher retention. And for us in SaaS, even for B2B, even any kind of business, retention means efficiency and higher customer lifetime value, which is very, very reason why we want to be here. Another really important thing is that when you have a great experience with a product, you're more likely to pay for that, especially that initial experience. It's true for any kind of thing. If you have a great experience with a friend or a shop, you're more likely to buy something from that store than you are if the person who was helping you was very rude, right? So I think that's super important. This is another stat from Profitwell that there is this impact in terms of willingness to pay. And we know how important this is, specifically with what's happening in the economy, where more and more people are churning out, and there is lower willingness to pay for a lot of people who are trying out products. We can really wow those users and get them to come back. And this is just a bunch of numbers, but like one of quote that I love is from David Scott. He's this person who leads this VC here, and he's seen 100 different SaaS companies. And he said here, in working with a number of SaaS portfolio companies, there are two main causes of churn. And he said it's the failure to successfully onboard the customer and the loss of the champion who drove that purchase. Really, this is like table stakes here. This is a do or die kind of thing for a lot of our businesses, and we need to see that this is important. Often I also hear that, hey, Ranley, I already have a really great UX. Our product has great UX. Why do we need onboarding at all? And I think the reason why, even if your design team thinks like you don't need onboarding if you have a great UX or UI, there's a few reasons. There's 3 reasons that I want to share with you. First of all, I think users have different needs, and we know that if they have different needs, then you can guide them to those needs, and that's where user onboarding can really help them. I think the second thing here that's super important is that learning something doesn't mean that they're using something. I think that's one thing that I see over and over again that we'll talk about, is just because somebody complete a product tour doesn't mean that they're going to start using it right away. I think we have to get them into the habit of using the product more, and that is important with the user onboarding. And the final thing is that things can change and adapt, And I like to say, like, right now we're talking about that initial onboarding experience, but as you know, Courtney is aware, uh, and even for us, you got to continually onboard users to new features and use cases, and it is like a ongoing. Onboarding is a never-ending exercise or activity that we need to continue moving forward. So this is the reason why onboarding is important. I want to talk a little bit about how to improve your user onboarding. I talked a little bit about this already. That most user onboarding struggle with this. They need improvement. I shared that 60. I have your 60%, and I got this from Mixpanel, but I've seen it as high as 80%, where a lot of users they sign up for something and they don't come back. The 60 to 80%. And if you're in the mobile app space, it's even worse. I think 95% is the stat I got for people who don't like after 90 days they've deleted your app from their phone. So it really is a challenge, and I'd just love to ask you specifically, and um, you don't have to respond to it in the chat, but I'd love for you to do it because like this is a safe space. So let me ask you this question. I'm even gonna answer this for ourselves. If you can rank your products onboarding experience from 1 to 10, one being worst and 10 being the best, I'd love to see in the chat exactly what you think your product's onboarding experience is. Okay, I'm seeing some people type. Courtney, I'd love to hear what you think. What do you think about app use? And if we're gonna be honest here, I think we're working on this on ourselves. So, Courtney, yeah, let me know what you think about what our onboarding experiences are ranked. Oh, oh, I think you muted Courtney. Oh, there.
Yeah, so I mean, we're constantly improving, constantly thinking about ways that we can enhance our onboarding experience, especially with some changes that we're making in the product. So, if I was giving an honest rating, probably like a 7 or an 8. I mean, I think we do it well, but we always have room for improvement.
Yeah, that's totally true. And then I think D asked if this includes sales execs, and yes, I would say that's part of the onboarding. Those handheld. I think that's one thing that we're still also working on is like how do we introduce human touch a little bit more in our onboarding experience? Which when I say onboarding, it's not just in app; it's also out of app, so to speak. Would you agree with that, Courtney? I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you still give us a 7 or 8 if we included the sales execs, the high touch stuff?
I think I'd have to think about that. I don't know.
That's funny. I think that's finding the right balance of when to introduce
Yep.
a person is like the key thing because we can talk about that later in the sales in the question Q&A answer. Um, would you rate your score based off customer activation rate? You could. I think that's a good point. We have some benchmarks that I can share with you later. Ben, I'm seeing a lot of uh, yeah, Jennifer says onboarding is implementation. Yes, super important. I'm seeing a bunch of 5, 6. Jennifer said 2. Abby, Matt said 4. Amy said 7. Fellow Candice, wow, 8. Yes, of course. Solid. Faria said 8, 8.5. I love all this. We also have a personal onboarding process. So Thank you so much for everybody you shared their stats. You're right. Even if you're an 8, like where we're at, we're always looking to improve. If you are like lower, there's definitely lots to improve here, which we can talk a little bit about in a bit. But the way we think about it in terms of improving is really thinking about this quote that I love. This is the chief product officer at Adobe, and he quoted this in one of his articles. It's a little harsh, a little bit of warning. This is Scott Belsky. He said in the first 15 seconds of every new experience, people are lazy, vain, and selfish. And I know it sounds harsh, but think about the last time you signed up for a product. Think about how you felt or you thought about it. Maybe a lot of the questions that came to your mind is, what is this product? How will it help me? How is this even better than what I'm doing right now? And sometimes in the back of our mind, how will my boss think about me if they found out I'm using this product? Or what would I drop if I'm currently using this and replace it with something else? I think those are a lot of things that go in the back of our mind, and we're thinking when you were signing up for that product, you're likely thinking about yourself and how it can help you, how it'll make you look in front of your boss when if you do end up purchasing it for the team. Um, that I think April Dunford, actually I have the book here. She's the author of this book, obviously awesome. She's writing a new book called Sales Pitch, but she said that you can never like you're you can never go wrong with buying something that's well known, because it's a little bit more safe than if you were like buying a no name. So often people buy not because it's the best product, but because it makes them look good. It makes them feel secure. That's probably the reason why people buy certain products rather than other thing, because there's a little bit of trust there already with that brand name. And what our role is to continue to build that trust. And one way we can do that is really we gotta take the time and show them the value as quickly as possible. And we're gonna be talking a little bit more about this, but the the goal of this game really is to shorten that quote unquote time to value, or TTV, for folks who are already here, who are familiar with it. That's the time it takes for people to see that initial value with your product. And so before I go to handing off to Courtney, I just love to hear for people here. Just type it in the chat. How long do you think your time to value is for your product? You can type short, you can type medium, or you can type long. Just I'd love to hear if okay. Ben was like straight up too damn long straight. It's short, medium, or long. So let me know in the chat exactly what you think that is. Short, medium, or long. So I'm seeing medium. Phil said short. Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of medium. Ben, thank you for your honesty. I think for us, Courtney, what do you think are takes so it does there's a little bit of friction with installing that thing.
Yeah, I would definitely say medium to longer
Mm.
um, for the AppQ's product.
That's true.
Yep,
I
the
love.
install definitely dictates getting this installed, and then from there, just getting content live can sometimes take a little bit of time. So I don't necessarily think you're seeing value until you have some of
Mm,
that content live.
that makes sense. Yeah, and I love Amy's answer. It's a very like marketing or very like consulting answer. Depends,
Yeah,
but I
that's
love it. It's true, right? Depends
true.
on who. Sometimes short, sometimes medium. Depends on it. Hannah said long because noticeable benefits and reduction to the user. So I think, I really love all the responses here. Thank you. I'm gonna pass it off to Courtney. She's gonna talk about the in-app, how you can design and reduce the time to value using some patterns that we have here, and then we can go to Q&A after, and then you feel free to share your product. I already see a few questions here. Oh.
Alrighty, let me get to Sharon here. Okay, so when we're talking about creating an onboarding experience, my expertise in this is definitely thinking about strategy and what kind of pattern types that you can use to make your onboarding experience a little less friction in the process for your users when they're first logging into your application. So while we start talking about this, I would love to know, what do you think common reasons are for having like a low free to paid conversion rate are, or why you think maybe time to value takes a little bit longer in the chat. So you can kind of mention that while we're going through this. But I'm sure most of you are familiar with AppQs, and if you're not, we use patterns to essentially guide your users to do certain actions or to go through certain behaviors. For this example, of course, we're talking about user onboarding. So most of these would look probably familiar to you, but we use things like checklists, slide outs, tooltips, modals, pins. All of these are different patterns to customize your experience for your user base, or maybe even the audience within your user base, depending on who they are or what kind of attributes they have within your product. So we'll dive a little deeper into each one of these pattern types and talk a little bit more about them. But let's see here. We have a few different of these pattern types. They kind of fall into different categories, if you will. So we have some interruptive pattern types, we have some embedded pattern types, and then inline. And each one of these are used for different scenarios, different use cases, different products, even depending on what your product is and what you're trying to accomplish out of your onboarding. But going through each one of these, we'll talk about what pattern falls into each category. But when thinking about these categories, you're kind of thinking about interruptive is user has no control over when these show up. It interrupts what they're doing within your product. It's loud, it's proud, it's a big announcement for your user. We'll talk about what that means here in a little bit. Embedded means that they can choose when they want to interact with it. So like you're not forcing them to interact with your pattern type, but they can choose their own adventure essentially. And then inline is kind of when a user does an action, then they will see some of your pattern types or your flows. So moving on here, we have our interruptive pattern type first. And I'm sure if you're familiar with our product that you have used or seen modals, we talk about them first thing when you onboard within our product. So these are the loud and proud version of our pattern types. Like they will block out what's in the background. They show up in the middle of your user's page or off to one of the corners, and they draw a lot of attention. You want to use these, of course, maybe in like a welcome message. So when somebody first logs in, welcome to the product. This is what you're going to expect from this onboarding experience. And then some other use cases that are not onboarding relevant would be things like a really major release or an outage notification or a major announcement within your product. But again, for onboarding, you're thinking of things like a welcome message, letting them know what they can expect. And this is the interruptive pattern type. Just a few options of some of modals that you might see or some modals that have been created with Appcues is we have like an upsell opportunity. So you have the opportunity to kind of add additional services. Of course, we have an onboarding experience. This specifically has been localized, meaning that it's translating the content to show based on a user's language settings. And then more of like a content or an adoption modal. So you can use them for multiple different reasons. But of course, today talking about your onboarding experience, this is maybe what you would see here. And then moving on from modals, we also have another pattern type that's an interruptive pattern type, and this is a slide out. It's a little smaller than a modal, and just like the name suggests, slides out from left or right of the screen, top, bottom corner, highly utilized for surveys within the Appcues product, or maybe you have like webinars that you want to have a registration for. But again, these are really, really great for onboarding or activity nudges. So like maybe, hey, just as a reminder, you didn't complete the onboarding experience. Maybe you have that slide out versus a modal, or maybe this is after your modal. It's kind of a little bit more information, but you're breaking up your content. So a good way to still capture their attention on the screen without blocking or interrupting every single thing in the background. But again, this is still the interruptive pattern type. When you use an interruptive pattern type, best practice is to definitely make sure that you're using this sparingly. You don't always want to have a major pop-up for your user blocking out what they're doing in the background. It can also cause friction. So you can always talk to the Appcues team. We're happy to talk about those best practices with you. And then just some examples of some slide outs. We have things like a QR code that somebody could scan for their mobile app. We have feature launches. Again, some more upsell opportunities, or this is an Appcues version of a slide out here. So scheduling a demo. So maybe they're in a free model or they're a trialer, and we want to make sure that they schedule a demo with us to kind of go through all of the features and functionality. A really great time to use a slide out. Romley, I can't see the chat, but are there any questions around any of the interruptive experience types before I move on to inline?
I think there's a question from Amanda around how you can make this feel, and I wasn't sure, but I think we'll get to Q&A later.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll keep on moving and I'll find some time to answer that. So moving on to inline, we use a lot of tool tips within Appcues, and these are really, really great way to kind of walk your user through the onboarding experience. So it's not the norm to have multiple modals back to back. Maybe you have one or two, but then from there, you typically want to guide the user to see something within your product, or you want to point them to do something within your product, and you would want to tie this to something specific within the application. So tooltips are a really great way to do so, and it's really awesome to pair them with like that first welcome modal. So maybe we have a welcome modal, we welcome you to the product, and then from there, I want to show you different areas throughout. So this is where you can do X, Y, and Z. This is where you can add a file, those kind of things. And we're pointing those out throughout the product. And it's a really great way to just kind of guide the user through. Still can use these for things like surveys or new feature announcements, but in an onboarding experience, tooltips are definitely chef's kiss. And then here's just a few examples of what some of these tooltips look like. So again, we see an onboarding tooltip here. So this is where you're going to upload your video. We're guiding them to do that. We know that that's important for getting them to see value in our product. We're shortening that time to value by guiding them through how to do certain things. And this is going to make their life easier and make them want to stick within your product. Same here, we have Frame.io. They're invited, you want to guide somebody to invite more users to the application. So inviting more users, more people are getting their hands dirty, and now they're using the product and they're loving the product. And then again, we have another one over here, and this kind of just mentions like, hey, can we help you? Or you can mention, this is how you mention this to share with your team. So just kind of guiding them again through the process of how to find value in your product. Another option is we have pins, and this is one of our newer pattern experiences, but these are really great to use in conjunction with tooltips. Different than tooltips, though they might look very similar. These are really good, like hot tip information, good info to know, not necessarily that you need them to know, and they don't interact with your flow. So if you have a flow that has 5 steps, you might have a pin that lives in the background. Again, the pin is a really great way for them to kind of self-guide and figure out what the feature might be. Maybe it's a feature that's like a nice to have, but it's not crucial in the time to value, but you want them to know about it because it's kind of like that cherry on top for their experience. So you might have something like a question mark or an eye icon, and they can click or hover over this. They do have to click or hover though, so they must choose to interact with this pattern type. And then again, here's some options of some pins. So you can kind of see they look very similar to the tooltips, but we have things like a button. So they can click on this button to learn more. Maybe the button takes them elsewhere and then guides them to a flow, or maybe it launches a flow, and then some hot tip information.
And I think this is a good one for a question that actually Phil brought up.
Yeah.
He said that they have 2 types of users or personas that they onboard, and one is like more of somebody who needs a lot of help and then they have another type of user who tend to struggle with direct onboarding. And the reason why I love pins is that it helps people find and explore it without having to get in your face necessarily.
100%. Yep. Yeah. So I hear that actually often when I'm talking to some of my clients, is they're like, we have users that just don't want to go through the experience. They don't want to be told that they need to go through this experience. So yeah, pins is a really great option because you know in your product where people might struggle or where people might want more information, and you can just add a little pin there, and then they can hover on their own and they don't feel like they're forced to go through an experience. But they have the information there and they're still going through some type of onboarding. So that's a really great call out.
Love it. Thank you.
Of course. And then some of our last pattern types are embedded. So again, these need to be interacted with your client, or your client needs to interact with them on their own. So they're not in their face right away. But things like checklists, and of course, checklists are amazing for user onboarding. I suggest it anytime one of my clients is doing an onboarding experience. So if you have somebody that's brand new to the product and you want them to complete 3 or 4 action items because you know that that means they will fall in love with your product, then create that checklist for them. It really gamifies the experience for onboarding. So maybe the first item in your checklist is is log in. And so as soon as they log in, that's automatically checked for them. And now they're like, oh, this is fun. I want to complete the rest of the steps, or I want this checklist to go away, so I'm going to complete the rest of the steps. So this kind of just, again, gamifies the experience, but allows them to go through actions that you know are crucial for them to be successfully onboarded within your product. So doing certain action items. This stays live on your application until the user completes the checklist, or unless they dismiss it. So you can have them dismiss it, or they complete it and then it will disappear. And then it saves their place as well. So like, let's say they do 2 action items, they log out for the day, they come back tomorrow, same thing, it'll save their place, and then they'll continue on with their onboarding experience. Just some images of what these checklists look like. So again, link tree here, create your first link, add your link tree everywhere, upload your profile. So you're doing these 3 things, and now you know they'll be more sticky. Same thing for AppQueue. We have an onboarding checklist. So get to know the pattern types, build your first flow, track an event. We know these options will make them love the product and be able to explore some of the options that we have for them outside of just building a flow. And then also another one here, have check out your demo doc, install Writer for Chrome. So all of these things, and you can see they don't have to be completed in order, but we know these things are going to be a successful onboarding. And then our next option is a Launchpad, and Launchpad is one of my personal favorite features. I love the Launchpad. So this is kind of more like a help center, or a place for somebody to do self-guided tours. So like, think about, maybe you have an onboarding flow and you have a user that's, Phil, this would probably relate, or maybe you could relate to this, but they're just clicking through. They don't really read. They're not really digesting. They just want to get the flow out of the way. But then tomorrow when they log in, they're like, maybe that would have been helpful information, because now I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. In the Launchpad, they can go up, they can find their flow or their onboarding flow and revisit it on their own time. So we all know that some people become a little blind to pop-ups, and we want to make sure that they still can go back and view that information when they find it to be the most relevant. So I love the Launchpad for that exact reason. Also, if you have like common help tickets that come in and you want to try to deflect some of those, you can add a flow in here that would kind of help guide the user how to do something before they're submitting a support ticket or a help ticket. But yeah, I think it's a really great way to kind of guide your user and let them choose on their own what they want to see and when they want to see it. So that was a ton of information on our pattern types. So I would love to know, how's everyone feeling? Did any of these kind of spark some creativity? Are you using these pattern types? You can drop an emoji in the chat, or some of your feedback in regards to some of these.
Example, I saw, I don't know what emoji this is. What is this? Thumbs up? No, I'm not sure what. Yeah, and you just intuitively, okay hand. Yeah, okay, great. Yep. We have a ton of questions. I think we're gonna jump right into it very, very soon. Before we do, I just want to make sure people are aware once again that we do have this course that people can get certified. I'm just gonna drop the link here as well. But like, if Courtney, if you can go to the next slide. If people don't have we don't get to your questions later today, we will try to get as much. We have so much time. We have about 26 minutes, but we got our email address as well as our LinkedIn. And we're gonna go to answers. We still have, like I said, we still have 26 minutes left. Feel free to drop your questions in the questions tab. I know I already have a bunch of questions here in the chat that I'm gonna try to scroll up. I think it might be fresh top of mind. Tamar was asking around. Did you mention anything about AI for beginners, or AI? How does that weave into this, or is that Tamara just asking how we can use AI for onboarding? Is that correct? Oh, she's typing. Perfect. Let me scroll up if there's any other questions here. Okay. And then if people want to vote up questions in the questions tab, feel free to do that because that's kind of cool to see people vote up questions that the other people have. I think Tamar's just explaining her question. We'll get back to that. There was a question earlier. I think it was from Amanda around how you can make your onboarding feel, and it was left blank. But I can say like, yeah, I think Amanda, if you can explain exactly what that is as well. All right, Tamar. Oh, there it is. So Tamar asks, how does AI component come to play with onboarding? Courtney, do you have any responses? Any thoughts on how?
I truly don't. It hasn't been a topic really yet with my clients and onboarding and how AI comes into play here. So I really don't, but I can definitely look into it and maybe see if there's anybody else on the team that might have some more information and we can send that your way.
Sounds good. Tamar, we will follow up with you. I think that's a great question around that. Yeah. Okay, there. I think Amanda, it was an early question she asked. We have a product onboarding for a product tour welcome video, but they feel disconnected. So the disconnect between the product tour and the welcome video. Um, any suggestions with that, Courtney? I'm curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that you have a video that's kind of playing in your modal when they first log in, and then from there it feels disconnected with the rest of the flow. I don't know, Amanda, if you have a CSM, but I'm sure that it would be great to connect with them to kind of go through like what are some of the topics that are hit in that video, and are we going to just try to drive some of those bullet points home with our onboarding flow, or are we trying to expand on that? And then of course, okay, perfect, exactly, yeah. So I would think more like, what is the strategy? Do we want to expand on some of the things that are in the video, or do we want to go further and deeper past the video? If that feels disjointed or disconnected. And then, I don't know, can you view how many people are viewing your video? Are they staying on the video? Do we think it'd be better to just eliminate the video and have some sort of guided walkthrough from there? Oh, good engagement. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I would think more just, what's the strategy? Do you want to continue to expand on what was seen, or do you want to go deeper than that? Or maybe it's just the video, and then on their next login, you go through a different flow that kind of drives home. So almost splitting it up.
That makes sense. I hope that answers your question, man. If not, yeah, do some follow up.
Yeah.
I think the questions in the questions tab is much interesting. So there's one here that was voted up the most. Let's show it on the screen. Is there a recommended number of steps for onboarding? I feel you can overwhelm folks pretty easily with all the pop-ups, slide outs, and pins. Great question.
Yes, really good question.
Yeah.
You want to take that, Romy, or you want me to take it?
Feel free. Thank you for that. I'm sure you've seen a ton more than
that. This is definitely a question that's always asked, Ben. What is the right amount of steps? We find our sweet spot to be between like 5 and 6 steps, really no longer. If you're going past that, you might want to consider breaking up into different flows. So maybe you have, their first login, they go through 5 or 6 steps, and on their third login, or, X amount of days after they complete that flow, they have another flow that shows. So I would say 5 and 6 steps is the sweet spot. We see a lot of drop off after that. And then you want to consider breaking up into different flows.
Totally. I think that's the same. I think we had this case study where, you're right. Like if you have exactly what you mentioned, if you can break it down even more into like succinct steps, then that will be a lot better. I like to think of it like a video game. As you can see, my background is like a video game team. You want to think about level 1. What does that level 1 look like? Getting them to that quick win. And then once they completed that first level, now introduce level 2 and then level 3. And if it's taking more than, I don't know, 5 or 10 steps for one level, then maybe can you split it up to like level 1A, level 1B, kind of like think about it like a stepwise function rather than taking huge step going forward. So that's the way I would think about it. It's more so the number of steps right now rather than the number of steps total that you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. And I think you're right, Ben. Like it is easy to overwhelm people with all of the content at first. So you want to think about like what is the sweet spot. And the good thing about AppQues is you can say like when that person completes the flow and it's been X amount of days after something, then you want to show your next flow. So you have a lot of customization as far as that goes.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate your responses and then your comments as well. The next voted one here is from Nicola. She asked, are there any recommendations on the order of steps should sit? In particular, email verification. Are there any rules for email verification steps? It's a good question.
Yeah, so I think any recommendations on the orders that steps should sit? I'm guessing that you're talking more around like the pattern types. Like, should you start with a tooltip? Should you start with a slide out? If that's the question, if it's an onboarding experience, what I see is like the most successful is to start large and work smaller. So like I would suggest you start with a modal or a slide out, and then you go to your smaller pattern types, because then it's more guided, more tailored to the product. So that was always my recommendation. I don't recommend ever starting really with like a tooltip for your experience, especially not for your onboarding experience. In regards to email verification, I'm not sure I understand the question there. I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit in chat.
Yeah. Let me respond. Let me provide my response for the first one. I think on top of what you said, I love that. I never thought about it that way. You want to welcome them with a modal, not a tooltip. I think the second thing that I think about in terms of steps is, can you order it from easiest to hardest? Because like getting them to take baby steps before huge leaps is like very, very quick win. I think there's like this psychology from I forgot what it's called, the principle of consistency, where if you get somebody to say a small yes, they're more likely to say a bigger yes. So like if you can get them to do something easy first, that would make it easier for them to do something hard, like setting up something or connecting the data. So I think that's one thing. In terms of email verification, let's see if you there's a okay. I didn't see any clarification here, but I would think that's more so. Is it required? I think for finance, like PayPal or banks, where there's regulation, I think that's important. Especially if the other thing is, if you're for a lot of email marketing tools like HubSpot is an example where you're gonna send a bunch of emails. I would say there is more value to verifying email, because you can be I call it bad actors, people who would take your app and like you send spam messages. So I think that's something that I would definitely think about in terms of email verification. I'm not sure if there's any other rules there is for that, Nicola. I hope that answers your question. Okay, I don't see any other. Okay, all right, let's go get another question. Courtney, do you want to pick?
I was just looking through them to see if I could find the next one that was highly voted. Okay, so Joe, looks like yours was upvoted a few times. Does AppQues allow you to A/B test onboarding flows in order to help identify fastest time to value? So we do have A/B testing, and then we also have control experiments. So you have both options. So you can test either flow versus no flow, or flow versus flow through A/B testing. Our A/B testing is, I don't know if it's being reworked right now or if it is being sunset for control experiments. But right now you do have the option, or there's some workarounds as well for kind of breaking out your audience into two different flows to see which performs best. So short answer is yes. I don't know, Rami, if you have anything to add there.
No, I think that is. I think you got this better than I have. You want to pick another one? I'm just responding to Nicola on the chat.
Peter, your question is great for Rami, so I'm going to let him answer that.
Oh, okay.
Just a second. There's some other ones in here. Let's see. David, this is a good one. Will you recommend to ask questions in the onboarding flows, like what brings you to the product today? I don't know if I would say like I recommend this over not, or I recommend not over asking the question, but it is a really great way to kind of get engagement or to have like a choose your own adventure. So if you have some sort of survey within your onboarding flow or some sort of like, did you come here because you wanted to learn how to do X, or did you come here because you wanted to learn how to do Y? You could then tailor your onboarding experience to what they're looking for, and they may be more likely to stick around in the product if it's more tailored to them. So I don't know if I have a recommendation on yes, ask the question, or no, don't, but it is a really great way to customize.
Nice.
So I love that. I love if you end up doing that. I'd love to see your flow.
Yeah, I would agree. Totally agree. My response would be like, if you do something with the response, then ask it. If you're asking the question so that you can get your salespeople more information,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
I think maybe, but it's adding friction without adding the extra value to the user. So I think that's the way I would word it. Like, what brings you to the product today? This way we can customize your experience better to fit your needs. Like, there's value to the user. I see Canva does this, and Miro, Notion does this, Airtable, like especially apps that has a lot of options. I know this is something that we've been thinking a lot about, Courtney, right? Like asking that specifically, are you here to do onboarding or share
Yep.
messaging to your customers, and then draw you specifically to a pattern to help you get up and running as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Makes sense. What's the other question that
So yeah, Peter, this wasn't upvoted, but it's a great question and definitely in Romney's wheelhouse. So can you talk
oh
briefly about how to best integrate the flywheel segments to get the flywheel segments flying?
this question. This is something I think this is something that we're working with. The flywheel we have on our dashboard right now is uh the previous version of the one we have updated. I think it's important, Courtney. I think this is right. If you set goals for those flywheels and create segments, I think that would be super impactful.
Yes,
So like
100%.
knowing where your specific users are, I think the value for me in terms of the segments is that you're defining for your team exactly what success looks like. So what does it mean for a user to be activated? What does it mean for a user who is ready to go to the next stage? And setting those, having those discussion with the product, with the marketing, with sales, and then kind of defining it in AppQs or within the dashboard itself is where you're going to get a ton of value there. I think that's getting everybody on the same page will help a ton there, I think. Courtney, any takes on that?
I don't know if I have anything to add there, but yeah, definitely using goals. It's an underutilized feature that we have. So, I mean, it can definitely help kind of creating some of those segments for yourself. So yeah, that was a great call out.
Awesome. There's one I see that's like highly voted here. I'm gonna ask. This is probably a question for you, Courtney. This is from Taha. It says, "Is there any way that a checklist keeps a track of flows completed from multiple subpages to when they return to the home page?" So let me repeat that question. Is there a way that a checklist keeps a track of flows completed from multiple subpages to when they return to the home page? I think so.
So yes, when the flow is attached to a checklist, it does keep track of the flow's completion rate. I'm not sure if I know what it means from multiple sub pages to when they return to the home page. So we're not tracking like the pages, I guess, but yes, it does keep track of the flow. So like if it launches a flow that has 3 steps and they don't complete all 3 steps, then you would see that drop off. You would see your completion rate, 1 through 2 steps instead of the 1 through 3. Does that answer the question, or let me know if you have any that sparks anything else?
Yeah, I think that was your wheelhouse. I don't have anything to add. Oh man, we have so many questions. Thank you for engaging. We still have 11 minutes, so keep them coming. Thank you so much. Do you want to pick one, or should I pick one here?
Yeah, well, here's
Oh
one.
yeah, I saw
So
that too.
can you explain the conditional options in app queues? For example, if a task is completed only then move to the next option. So how I would think about, and I'm just thinking on the fly here, but what I think about when I think about this question is like, let's say I have a flow and I want them to complete this action, and that action is like uploading a video. We'll use the vidyard examples, like uploading a video, and I want to then only show the next flow after they've done that action. So they've clicked on the button to upload the video. Then yes, we would use things like click to track events to know that they've clicked on that within your application. And now we're going to show them the next flow. So only after an action is completed, then the flow would show. And you would do all of this in your audience settings in your flow. So when you're setting up your next flow, the second flow that should show, you would set conditions there in your audience triggers. You know, if this click has happened, then show the flow, and they've also seen flow 1, or that flow's completed, then show this flow. So that's all done in your audience triggers.
Love that. Thank you. I don't have anything to add. That's really awesome.
I will add too, like audience triggers or your audience settings can become really complex. So you can always reach out to us and just ask for a second set of eyes. Like, hey, this is what I'm hoping to achieve. Does this look like it matches? I do that all the time with my clients because you can really become complex in that area, but it's crucial to when you want your flow to show.
Makes sense. Love it. Let me take this one. I've been letting you talk for a while. I'll give you a break here. This is a great one from Yushi. I hope I pronounced it right. We have found a checklist that most people dismiss those, and very few come back to them. We have seen with number of tasks. What have you seen with the number of tasks on the checklist? What is a sweet spot? We typically recommend between 3 to 4, but those 3 to 4 can be something really, really hard. So I guess it depends. It goes back to what I said earlier, where like if you can shorten it, if you can organize it from easiest to hardest, that would be super helpful. I think there's a few tricks that you can do. First of all, there's this, I forgot exactly what psychology principle it is, but when you show the checklist, have at least 1 or 2 things already checked off. One of them could be like set up your profile or account, and most likely they've already set up their profile because they've signed up. So once that's checked off, user sees the other ones like, oh, I already have one checked off. There's that tension for people to complete the rest. So I think that's one simple trick. I think the other thing is like one thing that somebody from our team, Lila, has done was like did that level 1, level 2 kind of thing where she split up our checklist into 2 levels, and we found that actually increased completion. So we have this case study here where we called it bite-sized onboarding, where we broke up like this longer checklist, like that's about 4 items, into 2 checklists. The first checklist only has 1 item, and the second checklist has 3 items. And as a result of that, we were able to increase the completion rate like by 30%. So I think that's another trick you can do would be, what Courtney suggested earlier, where you can trigger another checklist once they've completed the previous one, which kind of gamifies the experience, which is super cool. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Courtney?
No, not really. I continue to go back to the call out of like, as soon as you have that one already checked off, so like, it's really great to just have that one first item checked off. You'll see that people are more apt to like complete the rest. Cause again, it's that game. Oh, I've already done one. I might as well do the next 2 type of a thing.
True. That makes sense. All right. Let's go on to the next one. All right. Maybe this question from Maxine. I'm sure. If someone clears cookies, private browser on a website, is there a way to avoid them repeatedly getting modal pop-ups? Wow. This is very technical. As this may make them feel tired of the website pretty quickly. Cookies or website? Oh man, talking about third-party cookies and stuff. Courtney, do you have any response to this, or do we have to ask our engineering team?
Yeah, we might have to ask our support team on that one. Yeah. I don't know for sure. I mean, I know that you can use like incognito mode, and I don't know how that would affect your modal pop-ups. If that's a common theme, I think it would be best to connect with support to think about some other ways that we can target or eliminate some of those users? That's a great question, though. We can definitely follow up on that one.
All right, we will follow up with you, Maxine. Maxine Megan, I will grab that name right now and put it into the notepad. Courtney, do you want to pick the next question? We still have what, 5 minutes left?
Yeah, let's see here. We've already answered those. I'm blind picking here. How many of these onboarding patterns you can combine at once, first time users, or is it better to show them gradually? How many of these onboarding patterns you can combine at once? I think you're asking like how many steps in your onboarding flow should there be? So like how many of a combination of modals and tooltips you might have in a flow? You can let me know in the chat if that's off base. But yeah, I mean, it would be still like that 5-step max that you're looking at for your onboarding patterns. So a combination of things like modals, slide outs, and tooltips, it would still be like a 5 to 6 steps that you want to have, no longer. I mean, 5 is really where we start to see a drop off. So again, going back to that kind of like bite-sized onboarding.
Totally agree. I think that's yeah. You totally that. I think that combining different onboarding patterns would be smart and more so like how do you not overwhelm is going to be the key for us.
I do think too, just to add on a little bit there, like it's really easy for us when we're in our own product to be like, I want to teach them everything. Like I have like 10 things that I want to show them. But if you go back to yourself going through an onboarding experience, you're like, wow, that was the quick and dirty version. I love that. And if I want to dive deeper, maybe I have some other options like pens or on my next login, I have something else that I can complete. So it's really easy for us to forget what we like in an onboarding experience when we know the product and want to share everything, but kind of going back to what you would want to see in an onboarding experience.
I love that. There was a follow-up question from Taha about the checklists. Can you keep track of that flow on different web pages on your web app? Flows on subpage. Yeah. So the answer is yes. I think that's
absolutely. So like your flow can span across multiple pages and it will keep track of that. So you can definitely redirect to somebody to like the next page or a different page within your application and it will track that.
Awesome. We are flowing through this. We have 3 minutes left. All right. There's this one here. I think I see. We are targeting a specific audience whose lives and process our team has comprehensive understanding of, but our product itself is still in the very early stages. How do you use AppQs in our understanding of our users to grow? So the very early stage, and how do you use AppQs for our understanding of our users to grow? I'll let you take a stab first, Courtney, unless you want me to.
You can go for it.
No, I think it's best. I'll let you start off first. No, it's not fair.
So targeting a specific audience that you already have an understanding of, how do you use AppQs and your understanding to have the user grow? So like I'm taking this as you know your audience very well, because the product's in its very early stages. You know how they're performing within your product. So how do you take that information and also combine it into an onboarding flow? And I'm guessing you're talking about for users that are joining outside of that already good understanding of your users. I would just say like, it's good to, if you have the ability to survey some of those users, was there any friction or do you know of any friction using that? Like where were the friction points for your user base that's already involved and how can you eliminate some of that friction? I'm sure that each product will have friction points. So I would just say using that to your advantage. And then kind of what are the highly used features and functionality of your product, pointing some of those things out. I don't know. Hopefully that helps to answer the question. I don't know, Rami, if you have anything to add there.
I think that you totally agree with you. Very early stage. I think getting to know them and like even maybe like first of all like high touch onboarding and getting, like one-on-one onboarding in the beginning to like figure out where they get stuck, would be super important. Where AppQs can really help is once you watch them, like I would get on a call with a user and be like, hey, I would just want to watch you sign up, and then see them sign up and see where they're like clicking and not clicking where they should be, and then that's where you can use like in-app tool to like, oh, by the way, here's where it should be, or something to redesign something. Would be super helpful. I think this is all the time that we have left. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm just gonna show here once again our contact information. If we weren't able to answer your questions, feel free to message us. We got our email address here, Courtney and Apcus, and then Rami at Apcus, as well as connect with us on LinkedIn, as well as we'll be sending the recording and the slides right after this. And like I mentioned, feel free to complete the user onboarding 101. All the materials that was mentioned in this workshop is available through that. And you also get a LinkedIn badge and a certificate that you can share to everybody. To Courtney, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Hannah,
For the
Faria,
engagement.
Joe. Thank you so much, everybody. You should, Abby, all the people who ask questions. I really appreciate you made this more interactive than if we were just talking to everybody.
Yeah,
So thank you.
great group.
Have a great day, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you're joining us from. Goodbye for now. Talk to you soon.